everybody, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. And today I'm going to be talking about the best albums from 1981. And what I like about these videos, in which I can encounter every year and find the best albums of that year, is that you see clear shifts in changing of genres and new genres and genres. How do you pronounce it? Genre. In the Netherlands we say genre. Fuck it. You see the genre different styles of music develop, and 1981 is a clear, different kind of year. And I'm gonna start off with this beautiful heavy metal album, Killers by Iron Maiden. Now, this was my first Iron Maiden album, and I did kind of know what to expect. Of course, I heard The Number of the Beast and Run to the Hills and some other songs, which are not on this album, by the way. Those songs are on the album Number of the Beast. Killers was my first encounter with Iron Maiden, and damn, this is a killer. It's such amazing metal. There's so much energy going on, but opposite of other metal albums which I have been talking about, because I've been talking about Black Sabbath, which might be the origin of metal. I've been talking about Motorhead in other videos. This kind of metal I have not been talking about yet, because there is such a great challenging sense of melody in here. This is far from rock and roll. I mean, the roughness and the edges of rock and roll might be in there somewhere, mostly the speed, but melody-wise, musically, it has much more to do with classical music, just as you can see in the work of Deep Purple or Rainbow, for example. Would it be heavy metal? I think that's hard rock. This is heavy metal. If you take a look even also at the artwork, these guys want to say something else. They want to state something different. I bought it from a record salesman at Waterloo Square called Danny. He's most of the times there at Waterloo Square in Amsterdam, and he told me that the first time, I believe it was this album, the first time he bought an album was because a friend of his had noisy neighbors, so he thought, you know what, I'm gonna get the neighbors back. And at that time he and his friends were listening to Joe Jackson and all, so nice soft pop songs. So they decided to buy the roughest album they could find, put it on just to annoy their neighbors, and they put it on. They did not like heavy metal, and they put this one on, and they looked at each other and said, damn, where did this come from? Now, that is Killers by Iron Maiden. Awesome album. And to kind of like stay in metal area, though this is not real metal, it does have the grandeur. You might call this progressive hard rock, progressive heavy metal. Anyway, it's Rush, Moving Pictures. So, this is one hell of an album. Again, just as with the Iron Maiden, they are after melody. They are progressive. They try to do something new, but it has edge and roughness. And this is a mythical album. One of the best Rush albums. This is a mythical album with songs like Tom Sawyer, YYZ. So many good songs. There's one thing I really need to tell you about. What I have here is a Dutch pressing. Is it interesting? Well, Dutch vinyl at the time was very nice and silent. But the mastering of the Dutch records isn't always very good. But if you take a look at the Dead Wax, you find here that this one is master disc, Robert Ludwig. So this is a Bob Ludwig mastering. And Bob Ludwig, for anyone of you, if you're an audiophile, you know who Bob Ludwig is. If you're not, or you're a beginning audiophile, whenever it says RL, Bob Ludwig, just buy it for the sound alone. You might encounter a new genre you would have never ever heard about, but this one is mastered by Bob Ludwig and pressed on Dutch silent vinyl. And the sound of Rush, this album, the mix, and its brilliant mastering, is one of the records that will challenge your ears and challenge your sound equipment, because this goes all the way. It is just audiophile pornography. You'll love it. On the number 4. On the number 3. Oh, this one is also very good. I love all these albums. Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, with their album Architecture and Morality. So damn, something's going wrong with my pronunciation today. Genre, Architecture and Morality. This is a beautiful, beautiful first pressing. The first pressings have this with the inner sleeves. I got this from a friend. I would not have encountered this, or likely not encountered it, if it wasn't for the friend. But this is a beautiful, beautiful music. It is, to a certain degree, experimental. It has great atmospheres. It has great melody. This is an awesome band, and it is worth buying blindly. I find this album every once in a while, quite often, for about €5. If you haven't heard them, if you find this for €5, buy it. It will be the best €5 you have spent, because you'll experience a very, very, very nice band. It's everywhere. They are awesome. Look off. Now, number 2 spot of 1981. It's getting more interesting, and I'm leaving some of the big names out on this list, because I think 1981 had some of the finest albums ever yet to be discovered. And seriously, these are my 5 favorite albums from 1981, and this one is at the number 2 spot. Klaus Nomi, with its self-titled album. Now, what can I tell about Klaus Nomi? Klaus Nomi has an interesting story. You might have seen him without knowing, because David Bowie happened to be a fan in the late 70s, and when he played at Saturday Night Live, he played, for example, The Man Who Sold the World, he was performing it together with Klaus Nomi and another musician. He got impressed by what Klaus Nomi was doing in the late 70s in New York. Klaus Nomi is a German musician, and he came to New York to do a sort of like cabaret-like art performance with music. His stage show was enigmatic. His outfit was, he could not afford a very luxurious life. All of his money, as a beginning artist, he spent into his show, because he had a vision of greatness, of grandness, doing an act with schmink and makeup, becoming somewhat of an alien in the performance, and having a very interesting operatic background. He made a different kind of pop, and you really need it. I mean, if you haven't heard of the Klaus Nomi, pause this video, go to another YouTube thing, pause it, don't click this away, and search for his performance of Total Eclipse, which is filmed on 35mm, and you can find it on YouTube, and it is awesome. I mean, he has this beautiful falsetto, and you can hear it in Total Eclipse. He sings, the balance between his usage of voice is gorgeous. There are songs on here which are just mesmerizing good. Such a good pop energy, melodic pop elements, but with this classical trained vocalist to it. It's the most bizarre combination you have ever heard, and this man is challenging pop music. And if he would not have died just very early after this album, he was one of the first AIDS victims, he might have become one of the biggest and most important voices of the 80s, because what he's doing here is great. If you listen to for example, this album has the Cold song, which is a typical classic song, and he sings about returning his body to the cold snow, knowing that he sang that while he was suffering HIV, and looking towards an ending in which he would be lonesome, because people with AIDS would then be isolated from others in a hospital. With that realization, facing death, this song, the way he sung it, one of the best vocal performances, not just of the 80s, ever. Klaus Nomi is a masterpiece. Try and find it, and I'm sure you won't disagree with me. What can beat Klaus Nomi? Because I love that album. Well, right now, every couple of years, I switch my favorite album of all time, my all-time favorite album, which is strange, but sometimes an album is just very close to your heart for a couple of years, and to me, that's this one. For the last couple of years, I've been listening to this album constantly. Grazon by Grazon. It took me a very long time to get it on vinyl. Luckily, I believe last year or the year before that, they did a very good remaster of it with a great second disc with their demos and singles. You might know the song Ice Bear, that was their only hit. And they existed for about 2 or 3 years, Grazon. When they had their hit Ice Bear, they were so alternative, they didn't want to play that song live because they were not playing their hit. They were just banning their hit from themselves because they wanted to remain punk and underground. They're not a real punk band. They are a Swiss band. They sing in German. And their German lyrics are very simple and plain. But you can hear a repressed, how do you say, puberty. The sense of people who are, of a lead singer who is encountering his emotions with a typical purity vocabulary. But it never becomes a cliche. It is as sincere as it can get. This album has a sound you will not encounter anywhere else. The quality of the sound is brilliant, the way they are encountering it is brilliant, and these are some of the most melodic tunes I have ever heard. This is a rare gem, a masterpiece. I love it, I love it, I love it. I've been doing so much writing with this album on. I listened to it from back to back and again and again and again, and it never starts to bore me. This band does not have a single bad song. Everything is so good, pure. There's an element of alternative to it, but it's never too big to be uninviting because this has pop quality written all over it. But they don't want to be pop, and it's between that tension which lies the brilliant music of Grazon. Do yourselves a favor, buy the repress, buy an original. The repress is still available. This just might make your year. It sure did make my year. On the number 1 spot of 1981, Grauzone by Grazon. Well, that is my list. I'm curious, what do you guys think? Leave a comment below, and see you in the next video. Bye.